So recently I was having lunch with a friend. Let's call this friend Rich Ray. So Rich Ray and I were eating burrito bowls at Chipotle, and then my other friend, let's call him Gary the Grinder, walks in and sees me, and we do that whole, hey man, how you been? Let me introduce you to Ray, that whole thing. So after about 5 minutes of catching up, Gary mentions just having coming back from an event in AC. And Ray says, oh, you play poker, you should stop by my game sometime. And then they exchange numbers and do that whole thing like instantly we are cool because we both play poker, that sort of thing. So fast forward 2 weeks later and I get a call from Gary the Grinder. So I pick up the phone and Gary just starts going at it. Oh my God, man, your friend is such a fish. It's the softest game I've ever been to. It was amazing. I'm up 1,500. I can't believe players, are still this terrible, and so on and so forth. So I'm sitting on the phone listening to everything that is being said, and I have one of these moments where I like zoom out and see the situation for what it actually is, like from a higher sort of perspective. So we have two people, Ray and Gary. Ray is a co-founder of a very well-respected company. He works out daily. He's a very active person, always moving around. He travels the world, has an amazing apartment overlooking Union Square, and a new 1-year-old daughter, and a wife he loves. He's ultimately a happy person. Gary is a pretty decent and profitable poker player who just happens to be broke all of the time. He frequently complains about his luck and always has some sort of excuse. And if you actually examine his life, I believe he is ultimately a very bitter and unhappy person who correlates happiness with performance in the game, which is a very, very dangerous thing and something I've said to him several times. So now, if you take a look at these two people, who really is the fish? Yes, my happy, successful friend is definitely not the best poker player, but he is killing it in life. In fact, he has such deep pockets compared to Gary that if they were to actually just sit at a table together and play nonstop, I honestly think that because of his very, very big bankroll, he would ultimately leave winning. So initially, I was telling this story for the purpose of pointing out that you can be a fish at the poker table or you can be a fish in real life. Meaning it's important to develop yourself and improve your life in other areas besides poker. Something obsessive poker players, myself included, often forget to do. But then I started to, think about it and never really realized how much labeling someone a fish, donk, whale, idiot, soft, so on and so forth could actually hurt your game, which is something I've definitely been guilty of over the years. So I have 5 reasons why you should never use the terms, and if I've done my job effectively at the end of this video, you will start to remove these words from your poker vernacular. So first, labeling someone bad in poker ultimately isn't helpful. Why are they bad? Do they play too many hands? Do they not know the difference between a flush and a straight? I mean, you could make an argument that a player who has read every single poker book and understands every single concept in poker, but still makes the same horrible decisions, a fish. This general label doesn't give you any information on how they are actually exploitable. If you really want to call people fish, you should actually be more specific and come up with categories for each type of fish. So for example, a marlin is a player who is too aggressive pre and on the flop and tends to shut down on later streets or something like that. Just saying fish doesn't actively remind you of why this player is actually exploitable. Second, never ever, especially in a game based on variance, underestimate your opponent. A player may do something incredibly stupid, realize their mistake, and adjust accordingly within a very short time period. Just because a player plays bad, it doesn't mean that they're a bad player. Some of the best players in the world have done stupid things. It doesn't change the fact that they are the best. The labeling or use of the term fish sort of suggests that they are that and they're never going to change. Third, and this is probably the most important from a mental game perspective, but by labeling someone a fish, it makes it easy to rationalize your bad play. So you may play a hand with this fish and make a big mistake and lose, but then attach that loss not to your bad play, but to the fact that this player doesn't know what he is doing and so on and so forth. That is something I hear from players quite a lot actually. We don't like to say we made a big mistake, so we say I just ran bad. Fourth, putting others down isn't the best way to make yourself feel good. Oh, this fish was horrible and I stacked him 3 times, blah, 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 blah. If he is a fish who is really bad, then why are you so proud of exploiting him? That's not a badge of honor. Taking money from a really bad player, wow, good for you. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be proud of yourself for making a good call or fold. I'm just saying that it's way more admirable if that comes from a better player. Finally, in a game of so many dailies and so many daily ups and downs, it's so important to remain humble at the table. The second you think you know it all, you lose out. And who knows, that little fish could, teach you something. It could be like finding Nemo or something. I don't know. So in summary, don't use the term fish, donk, etc. And if you hear other players using the term, and I think this is most important, think about how the above 5 applies to them. And I bet you will notice something really interesting. Thanks again for watching. Subscribe. Check out my free 3-part poker training, beyondtells.com/workshop. Teach you how to narrow range via behavior. Any other questions, any other comments, you know the deal, comment below. We should really, there really should be some like giant chart of the kinds of fishes or the kinds of fish. Is it fishes or fish? Fishies. Are you serious? Fishies? Fishies? Is it fish or fish? And you say fishies? Fishies. Come here, little fishies.